evening, everyone. Welcome to Frankly Speaking Live here on webcast1live.com. I'm Dave Kanyuk, sitting in for Frank Holzhauser tonight. Joining me, as always, Mr. Jason Rainwater. How are you tonight,
Oh,
Jason?
we were supposed to have a third body, but he went socialist on us.
Yeah, he's a grayist, apparently, working at the Arcus. I think he's coming up with all the... Mike Nixon, of course, who's joined us on a couple of shows. Oh, several months past now. It's amazing how time flies. But,
Well, I mean, he was doing a role
right.
that kept him away from us for a while. Same thing for me, you know. But every time we were like, "Hey, we need you back. We need you back, buddy. Let me check my schedule.
Well,
Let me check my schedule."
Maybe he's chicken.
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
Mike Nixon, if you're watching, if you're listening, we find you to be a lily-livered coward.
Listen up,
You
Daddy.
come back on this show, you hear?
You come back on the show, Daddy, and show us your body of work, Daddy.
Very nice American dream impersonation there. What's new with you, Jason, this week? What's happening?
On my front, we bought a new house, so we have been back and forth painting, taking paint off wood trim of the windows, which is turning into a nightmare because they decided to wood putty the windows first, then paint them. So it's want to tear my hair out certain amounts of times. Other times I'm painting and I see light spots, and since I'm such a perfectionist and used to paint aircraft for a living, I start screaming obscenities.
But I didn't know you painted aircraft for a living.
I did. When I was still in the service, my first job was I worked in what we called the corrosion control section, which was basically, hey, you guys paint everything on the airplane, but they get a fancy name for it.
Oh, well, very good. So are you close to completing?
No, not anywhere near. I'm going to try to take a week off work so I can just work on the house and not feel like I'm going over there for 2 or 3 hours and sweating, because doing that has caused me to break out like a 14-year-old on my back, and I feel it just. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm 33 years old. I can't be doing this.
Well, let's I guess switch gears into the meat and potatoes of frankly speaking,
Pork and beans.
I always try to think of what the theme of the show is as I'm printing out articles. I don't specifically look for articles for a theme, but I print out articles that I find interesting, that I think are important, and then I can see what the theme is from the news based on that. So as I was printing this week's articles, what really started striking me was the increasing amount of censorship, lies, and spin from the mainstream media, or the so-called mainstream media, and how they're trying to control the message that's being put out there in order to shape your thoughts into accepting global government, accepting all sorts of perversions as normal and celebrating, restricting of actual freedom. And that's kind of what was hitting me this weekend. Starting off really with the lone gunman attack, or whatever you want to call it, in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Can we just call it terrorism?
Well, yeah.
I mean, can we
let's
call it that?
So this guy goes and shoots up Army recruitment centers, Marine recruitment centers, kills 4 or 5 people. Apparently, he was known to the FBI for years. This guy, Muhammad Yusuf Abdulaziz was his name. He took numerous trips to the Middle East. He was known to the FBI. He had traveled to Jordan last year for 7 months. NBC noted, let's take a look here. U.S. authorities are looking into a trip to the Middle East last year by Muhammad Yusuf Abdulaziz, the gunman who killed 4 Marines in attacks on military centers in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He left the United States in April, returned in November, and traveled through Jordan. Abdulaziz was born in Kuwait. The Kuwaiti Interior Ministry said Friday that he was of Jordanian origin. So the interesting thing is that the media is not proclaiming this to be a terrorist attack.
No.
The number one thing that comes out of Obama's mouth is that we should have respect for Islam, that we shouldn't blame Islam for this guy's radicalization, for this guy's action.
But we can blame a flag for a mass shooting at a church.
Another deranged person goes into a church back in June Dylan Roof, I think his name was, if memory serves me correctly, shoots up that church.
And the reason
And we've got media outlets saying it's white people's fault.
Yeah.
Salon
And that-
literally says it's white people's fault.
It is. It's a privilege that white people have, and the reason I can kind of stand off on the side and say, well, there's no white privilege, and not have people jump down my throat, is that I am a minority, and I can say pretty clearly that if I sat around waiting for white privilege, well, I'll be sitting in this chair until I'm a skeleton. There's a reason why I didn't say a black church. They shot up a church.
Right.
Regardless of what happened, he went into church and he shot up a religious center. I go, how is the lone wolf who goes and strikes a Marine recruiting center not as equally egregious? And what makes it more egregious is that on the window, and you'll see it around the pictures, people have been posting it on the windows of the recruiting center, it says, this is a gun-free zone.
Mm-hmm.
A gun-free zone with personnel who are probably the most highly trained gun users in the world, in the United States, and they are not allowed to carry.
The FBI apparently is deciding whether or not this is actually a terrorist attack. I don't see an article linked to that. This is just on a message board that I frequent, but yeah, apparently the FBI hasn't decided whether or not they're going to call this a terrorist attack.
Well,
Instead, they're just going to opt to call it, what was it, a lone wolf?
Yes. Well, this is just like the Fort Hood shootings. Mm-hmm. It was considered workplace violence. So is this another case of workplace violence that we're not going to discuss, that we're going to treat the actual criminal better than the people who are the victims or the ones who are hurt during this process? Because it seems that any time it happens to military members, our current administration does not care one word in a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's strange because when they removed weapons from bases and from military property, such as this recruiting center was, it was to protect our soldiers from harm from each other. Well, ever since 1993, and guess what? President Clinton was the one who didn't allow the military to no longer carry. You had to be specifically of a security forces, which was, let's look in the long run, was to subdue the base itself. So if you had to turn weapons onto mechanics or, what we consider the essential support personnel, you could, keep them at bay.
And that makes sure that you can funnel those security forces into people who are loyal to, the upper echelons.
Exactly. And that was the thought. And, they tried to hit, well, we're going to stop violence on military installations. Well, ever since 1993, it's tripled, it's quadrupled. We have mass shootings now. It's no longer the case of well-trained personnel with weapons. It is now one lunatic who has the ability to have a weapon is able to turn and make it a mass shooting, much in this way. And I'm not going to buy into the lone wolf nonsense. This is an act of terrorism. You have to see it that way. He is a foreign national who came here, whether if it was legal or not, and had a mission. And finally he carried it out, and that was to kill 4 Marine soldiers.
Well, I'm not even sure if I want to call it terrorism. I know the conservative wing of the left-right paradigm is going to be demanding that it's called terrorism and all the measures that go with it. That's really my concern, is that when we do start calling this terrorism, and I'm not saying that it's not terrorism. It is terrorism. You're absolutely right. But I don't want that to be used as justification for them saying, see, we need more restrictions on civil liberties. This is why we need to have the NSA listening in. This is why we need to have tighter gun control. This is why we need to do all these things to limit liberty.
Well, and I agree with you, and I think domestically this should not be something that leads the next charge. But if you look at the rhetoric that's coming from Congress and so far of most politicians, is that because this was not a racial issue, which is not black against white, it's more of is an Islamic person who must have had some sort of mental disorder. What have we done to cause him to do this? What in our privilege caused him to say, you know what, I got to take a stand against this?
Right.
And that's the rhetoric that's being spit out right now.
Right. There's no calls to close mosques. There's no memes on Facebook that Islam is the most hateful thing ever, like you have with Christianity.
Exactly. You know what's strange is it's here where we have to sit here and they're like, oh, it's not Islam's fault. It's not Islam's fault. It's our fault that we're making Islam do that. I go, if you go to other countries in the Middle East, we're probably going to talk about Iran today, possibly. You go there, and Iranian citizens who are Muslims are protecting Christian churches so that they can go in and pray.
Sure.
And the Christians are going over to mosques, and they're surrounding the mosque and making sure that they have a chance to pray. Mm-hmm. I go, that's usually what is happening on a majority level of Islam. I go, but only here that we continue to prop Islam as it's not a violent religion. I go, well, people are not violent, but they are fanatics of religion. And I don't know where I'm really kind of going with it, but I just kind of wanted to look at it in a way that this is a terrorist act, regardless of what the motives were or anything in that matter. For me, these were comrades in arms. That's how I look at it, and it is terrorism to me, and I can't stand for it, and I can't stand the spin that goes around it.
All right. Do you find it, real quick before we go to break, do you find it, well, let me hold off on this question, because I hear the music, I hear the Pied Piper chiming her tones there. So we're going to go to break. We'll be right back. We'll pick this up when we get back here. You're watching Frankly Speaking Live here on webcast1live.com. Stay tuned.
Real Estate Concept Studios. This is Webcast One Live.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
The only way we come to know the saviorship of Jesus Christ is by bowing and acknowledging that He is Lord and King over all the earth.
Jesus Christ died on a cross, paid the penalty for our sin, and by repenting of our sin and accepting Him by faith, what He did for us, we are forgiven.
Salvation is not a combination of faith and works. Salvation is by faith alone in God.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Live here on webcast1live.com. I'm Dave Kanyuk, joined by Jason Rainwater. If you'd like to join in on the fun, give us a call. The number here is 244-0077. If you're outside of Des Moines, you can give us a call at 515-244-0077. So we're talking about the Chattanooga, Tennessee Recruitment Center shooting and why the mainstream propagandist dinosaur prostitute media doesn't want to call it what it is, a terrorist attack. and why they're so quick to poo-poo and defend the actions of this guy over the actions of a deranged person who walks into a church and shoots people, and why we're not blaming all of Islam for this shooting when we have to blame all white people and the Confederate flag for the South Carolina shooting back in June. I found it interesting. The point that I wanted to hit as we were going to break, I find it interesting the timing of this. And I was going to ask, do you think this might be a false flag attack? It doesn't appear to be that way, at least in my view here.
A false flag attack in any way. I think this is one of the times where I can't really speak to conspiracy for this. I don't think it was just, as they continue to label it, as a lone incident, because none of these things ever turn out to be just one person planning it out and executing. There's usually always a group. I don't think it's anything larger than probably a cell, but when I mean cell, probably no more than half a dozen to a dozen people.
Right.
You know,
it seems like kind of a clumsy action, though, because apparently he was in an open convertible and was shooting a gun. So, and it doesn't sound like it was a handgun if the original reports are correct. Right. So didn't he have an accomplice?
I would assume that there would have to be accomplices. Like
but we haven't heard anything.
We haven't heard anything. Remember, this is a lone wolf attack, and we shouldn't rush to judgment on this particular shooter. And what has always bothered me with the media is that they continually say, well, the alleged shooter, the suspected shooter. I go, there is no alleged or suspected. You have found the person. He is the shooter. Please call him the shooter. You called him the shooter during the attack at South Carolina. Why does it change to suspected or alleged in these type of cases? And I go, is because they're trying to drive the narrative. They're trying to use their propaganda machine to get you to think, oh, we really should feel for this person. I don't feel for anybody who kills 4 people.
I find it kind of odd, though, that we haven't seen any security cam video of the shooting or anything like that. We haven't seen any dash cam of the apprehension, because apparently police rammed him. He was alive, and then an officer shot him dead. So we don't have any words from this guy, any indication as to why he would have done it. So that's kind of...
But you look at these things where it becomes these foreign nationals who come over and they created this type of violence. You know, as far as the Boston Marathon bombings, we do know that this was more of a CIA black operation.
Right.
But remember when the younger of the suspects was cornered into a boat there in that Massachusetts town, there was no come out, we have you surrounded. Surrender.
Shoot.
They shot into the boat at least 70 to 80 times.
He comes up unscathed, and then they finally tackle him down, and then they cut his trachea so he can't talk.
Right. And so then you look at this, where the cop car rams the back of the Corvette. They shoot at him, step out of the vehicle, then shoot him dead.
Yeah.
That's my major that's a huge concern, and it's a huge bubble for me when I see that. I'd be like, well...
Yeah, no report of return fire or anything like that.
It's
just
doing?
shoot. He's dead. So something seems a little off on that. And again, I'm not saying that it is a false flag, but
not to say it is, but it's very curious to where the gentleman in South Carolina was taken very calmly. It was taken with a lot of media exposure. You know, it's what are the narrative that we're driving here, and we will constantly go back to it. It is a racist narrative, and it's not against black, it's not against brown, it's not against it's a racist narrative towards white.
It's an attempt to tear down the culture that we have built up and make us feel ashamed for our success. So once that's torn down, it makes it easier to integrate with the rest of the world. See, the whole point of globalism is not to build everyone else up to the United States' success and level. They have to tear down the United States and bring us down to everybody else's level before they can fully integrate everybody. And then once that's done, then you've got all these interlocking trade zones, and then you'll have government from there.
And then to hide that as us being, we have to have humility to the rest of the world. We have to bring ourselves down to their level, and have humility towards our success. Exactly as you said. It's like we've had a success as the most free nation in the world. Well, guess what? We can't do that anymore. You should feel really bad about that happening.
And there are things that we should feel bad about that have been done in our name. And it's up to us to get educated as to what's been done and hold the people who claim to be our leaders accountable, because these people who claim to be our leaders, whether it was George W. Bush and his junta or Barack Obama and his tyrannical dictatorship, they're not our leaders. They're hijackers. They have hijacked our government.
Yes.
They've hijacked our way of life, and we've got to hold them accountable. We have to be willing to say, you're not going to be able to do this anymore. We got to be willing to clamp them in irons and hold them accountable. And yeah, that's going to be a tough process, and nobody wants to think about doing it. Nobody wants to think about impeaching Obama because, we'll have so much trouble if we do that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's committed so many crimes. You've got to do it.
Well, exactly. And you have past presidents like Calvin Coolidge has said, if I ever get to the point where I become a dictator or a tyrant, I expect the people of my nation to rise up and strike me down.
Right. And now we expect people to just go along with it because he has a pen and he has a phone.
You and I are basically outspoken treasonous dogs.
I
We
know.
are. If you look as far as many Democrats who fall in that area, they're far left or whatnot. I mean, just look at your Facebook. The people who post these memes are like, if you speak out against the president, you are a terrorist. You are a treasonous member of society, and you should be arrested and shot. I've seen it on my Facebook, and I go, do you not know that when people speak out against government, that is patriotism? When people fight against government, that's patriotism? It is nationalism to support a president and say, his word is edict and law. And that's where we're getting a lot of this mixed up. And I probably say
and
this.
it's fanaticism to advocate the elimination of anybody who doesn't support the person that you support.
Exactly. And it's not just Obama. We share Lindsey Graham's comment all the time. Well, if Congress doesn't do what I do, I want to make sure that we have the military turned on them.
Yeah.
It swings both ways. And I we beat it like a dead horse, but you have to continue to, because that's what they don't want you to do anymore.
One of the other points that I wanted to make before moving on was that I find it interesting the timing of this shooting happening just as soon as the military exercise Jade Helm goes live. I think it's been active for a few months prior, but it officially went live on July 15th.
Mm-hmm.
I find that timing odd. And then one of the big stories from early this week was a Russian hacker group who claims that they hacked into an aide of John McCain, hacked into his computer, and found footage of basically the rehearsal for one of those Jihadi John ISIS beheading videos.
Right.
So they're claiming that, hey, look, this was fake. We have the CIA file here on John McCain's computer. McCain responded to that. Let me see if I've got that here. Here we go. Senator McCain has responded to a staged ISIS beheading video, which pro-Russian hackers claim was found on one of his staffers' electronic devices, with the senator asserting that he is proud to be the target of America's enemies. As we reported yesterday, pro-Moscow hacktivist outfit Cyber Berkut released the video, which they claimed was evidence that the U.S. was supporting ISIS and was responsible for releasing Islamic State execution videos. Cyber Berkut has previously took credit for hacking NATO websites and obtaining correspondence from within the United States Embassy in Ukraine. The group insisted that the footage was hacked from a device belonging to one of McCain's assistants during a trip to Ukraine last month, but there was no accompanying evidence for this claim. The clip shows an individual staging a Jihadi John-style beheading video inside a film studio with professional cameras, lighting, and a backdrop made to resemble desert scenery. The executioner appears to be taking advice from a director on how to act. McCain responded on his official Twitter account, remarking, "Another nutty conspiracy theory from the hashtag Russian internet trolls. I'm very proud to be a target of America's enemies."
So, wait, okay. I need to clear something up just real quick before we move on here. So McCain is saying that Russia is our enemy.
Right.
So I remember a line, and McCain may identify himself as a Republican, but he's a far leftist of the highest order. It said, Russia's not our enemy. We should leave our foreign policy in the 80s. The 80s called back. They want their foreign policy
Was this back during the Romney campaign in 2012? Yeah.
And say what you will about Romney. You know, a hack of the highest order.
Mm-hmm.
But seriously, McCain just reaffirmed it. Russia is our enemy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no apology to Romney on that.
And I'm supposed to be told that McCain is the voice of reason towards the center. You know?
Right.
So
He's saying that the crazies are out in regards to the Trump immigration or illegal immigration comments.
Donald Trump, I mean, it's just an entertaining thing to watch him running for president. But don't get me wrong, his views on illegal immigration can be pretty spot on.
They're right.
You know?
They're absolutely right.
It's so people are like, oh, he's just a nutcase. He's just crazy. Look at him. I'm like, don't try to give me the magician's hand over here.
McCain followed up with a subsequent tweet in which he stated, "First they doctored pigs to say I met with ISIS. Now Russian internet trolls say I staged ISIS executions. Proud to be their number one adversary."
They photoshopped that, huh?
Yeah, he's saying that they photoshopped the photo with him and his boyfriend Lindsey Graham meeting with Abdul Hakim Belhaj, who worked directly with the U.S. and NATO forces during the overthrow of Colonel Gaddafi, and who now is leader of ISIS forces in Libya. Well, no, he's trying to rewrite history. That was not a doctored photograph. That was a real photograph. You really met with this guy. This guy's really the head of ISIS in Libya. You're a liar, and you're trying to reshape the narrative into making it seem like, oh, well, it's just a bunch of internet trolls. What do you have to say about that? What do you have to say about his blatant lying, trying to reshape the narrative? I mean, here's the photo right here. We've shown it a number of different times.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's nothing but a head case. He always has been. He's always been full of zeal for his own ambitions. You know, it's his service. I appreciate what he did for this country, and I appreciate what he went through in those years that he was captured. But quite honestly, that doesn't spare you the ability to be a liar.
Well, there's question as to what he went through during his years of captivity. There have been claims that he actually sang, like they call him Songbird McCain, because he sang under torture. You know, he gave up everything, and the Vietnamese treated him well. So, you know, this whole narrative about the torture and everything that he endured during his captivity, that may not even be true.
And it may not. But, you know, right now, what he's saying about his picture, about his visit. Did he not visit Syria? Did he stage that too? Was he in just downtown Burbank, meeting with this? Well, he's just the lookalike. It's just the lookalike.
Yeah, they got the lookalike of his boyfriend, Lindsey Graham.
I'm like, well, I get it. I get what he's doing because he has to rewrite history because he's being made to look like a fool, and he's a fool anyway. But to sit there and be like, I wasn't there. It's right there. Yeah. You gave the man an award.
But the point is, that could have been a huge, huge story. And then this shooting happens. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly it's kind of reaffirming all the rhetoric that he and Lindsey Graham would spew out there about how the manufactured ISIS is such a big threat and how we have to have NSA spying and everything. It kind of reaffirms that. So that's why I say the timing of this is suspicious, and we shouldn't be so quick to just accept it at face value. Because back in 2013, the U.S. repealed the propaganda ban on propaganda going out to U.S. media outlets. For decades, this is a story back on July 14, 2013, 2 years ago. For decades, the so-called anti-propaganda law prevented the U.S. government's mammoth broadcasting arm from delivering propaganda to American audiences, and I faintly hear our music, so we're going to go to break here. We'll pick up on this when we get back. Frankly Speaking Live here on webcast1live.com. Stay tuned.
It's your body of work, Daddy.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed raters free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed right or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing. We have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Right, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Live here on webcast1live.com. I'm Dave Kanyuk, joined by Jason Rainwater. I'm going to try and, we're here at the halfway point of the show. If you want to join us, give us a call, 244-0077. If you're outside of Des Moines, it's 515-244-0077. Get to Des Moines, come on.
What is going on?
I'm going to try and lightning through everything else that I have because I've spent a lot on the Chattanooga thing. But another big story this week, shock video catches Planned Parenthood's top doctor selling body parts of aborted babies. This is one of those things that you can't believe. You know, you read the stories about how different food manufacturers like Pepsi uses tissue from aborted babies as flavoring for Pepsi-Cola, and you're like, that's Maddie's even looking at me like that's ridiculous. But no, it's true. It's true. And then you see this on the web this week. And it's like, that can't be, but no, it's true. A shocking new expose video has caught Planned Parenthood's top doctor describing how the abortion business sells the body parts of aborted babies. New undercover footage shows Planned Parenthood Federation of America's Senior Director of Medical Services, Deborah Nucatola, describing how Planned Parenthood sells the body parts of aborted unborn children and admitting she uses partial birth abortions to supply intact body parts. In the video, Nucatola is at a business lunch with actors posing as buyers from a human biologics company. As head of PPFA's Medical Service Department, Nucatola has overseen medical practice at all Planned Parenthood locations since 2009. She also trains new Planned Parenthood abortion doctors and performs abortions herself at Planned Parenthood Los Angeles up to 24 weeks. She just call that she performs murders at Planned Parenthood in Los Angeles up to 24 weeks. Nucatola admits that Planned Parenthood charges per specimen for baby body parts, uses illegal partial birth abortion procedures in order to get saleable parts, and is aware of their own liability for doing so and takes steps to cover it up. The footage shockingly depicts the top medical officials at the Planned Parenthood Corporations munching on her salad while she discusses the sale of body parts of unborn children victimized by abortions. She brazenly discusses how the heads of unborn babies killed in abortions command top dollar. What kind of ghoul is this? It just sits there and nonchalantly eats her salad, sips on her wine while she discusses taking apart a child. I mean, what kind of society have we degenerated to?
When I was still a bedwetting liberal, I always looked at Planned Parenthood as well, we need it. Everyone has the right to choose. Everyone has the right to to discuss their own bodies, to do what they want with their bodies. And as my rhetoric changed, and I finally formed my political identity, as I like to call it, I looked at Planned Parenthood.
You woke up.
I woke up and I looked at Planned Parenthood and I said, this is not a necessary evil. It is not something to be trumpeted as our right to our own liberty to choose. Mm-hmm. I was like, this has become, and this even before this shocking video came out, and it is shocking, and
it's disgusting. It's revolting.
It is nothing short of human trafficking, and just because you murdered the child, and you can sell body parts, is nothing short of that, and you should be brought forth as a criminal. You have committed a felony. You have committed murder. You should be put in jail. I wish they would shackle you and torture you until your last dying day.
Well, I wouldn't say torture them. I'm against that violation.
But,
I mean, that's not for us to do. That's between her and God.
Right. But just know that's my initial reaction.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
That's my emotional reaction. I tell people this a lot. I have a first thought about a lot of things, and it's usually vile and criminal in my first thought. But then I have second, third, fourth thoughts that tell me, Jason, you can't think that way. Okay? So it's, as we move forward, and we had this video here, and I was talking with some people who were very liberal folks from back home. And I said, did you see the video? Did you see how brazenly they discussed talking about using these human body parts and these human beings? And they were like, well, Jason, we have to be more like Europe when it comes to abortion. We have to be more like Europe where it's very, very free and very open, and it's not, there's no restrictions. You need to understand that a woman has a right to choose.
No.
And I said, no, not at 24 weeks. And I said, do you want to be more like Europe? I'll give you an example with more like Europe. Every country in Europe restricts abortion. They restrict abortion to the first trimester. Mm-hmm. You have the first trimester to make up your mind in many European countries. After the first trimester, into the second, you better have a specific medical malady that it would either cause death or huge serious bodily harm to you in order to have an abortion. Many, if not all, European nations restrict late-term abortions. There will be no abortion to the third trimester, regardless if it's a issue of life of the mother. If you reached into that third trimester, they say no more. Germany does it. Germany says if you hit the third trimester, you're having that child. You will not be allowed to abort. Here in America, we have restrictions, but guess what? In a lot of laws, it says it is up to the residing physician to make that decision. Mm-hmm. And you looked at Planned Parenthood here. So these residing physicians, we can make a lot of money.
Yep.
We'll sell a baby head. We'll sell arms and legs and things like that. And then if you're not disgusted by that, and the people who are, I said that to them. I said, if you're not disgusted by that, if you still agree, let's call it what it is. It's not pro-life or pro-choice. It's for or against abortion. And if you're for it, you are for the murdering of these children who have now entered into the third trimester. You are okay with their body parts being sold. You're okay with consuming those body parts because in a lot of ways they are being sold to food industries.
Right. It's like basic training for cannibalism. Mm-hmm.
And I said, do you agree with that? Well, we're for the right to choose. I said, I didn't ask you if it's for the right to choose.
They keep repeating this zombie-like line, we're for the right to choose. We're for the right to choose.
Pro-choice.
That's what they've been brainwashed under the Hegelian dialectic, the false left-right paradigm brainwashing. They concern themselves as liberals, and that's their team, and they're just going to stick to the corporate line, so to speak.
So if anybody says we got to be more like Europe in the view, and I'm going to tell you, Germany, France, Spain, who are mainly the big three named players in Europe, restrict late-term abortion. If not, also restrict first trimester abortions. So I don't want to hear they're like, we got to be more like Europe. We got to be free in our views. I go, if you look at that video or if you read that article and you just go, okay, well, lone wolf.
Yeah, if you can support this, if the line has not been drawn for this, if this is something that you think you can support and defend, then you're a soulless golem. And that's all you are.
Exactly. And if your morals and ethics doesn't make you sick seeing that, know that your tax dollars are doing that.
Right. And you know what? It should be time for people in this country to say enough is enough and have a mass movement to refuse to pay income tax, go to your, and I know most of it is taken out, by your HR department, but you can go to your HR department in most cases and say, don't withhold anything. I mean, it's time for that movement to happen.
Yeah.
We cannot submit to this any longer, because if we do, this country is not going to stand. This country is already collapsing, and it's probably too late anyway. But there has to be some sort of movement.
There does. And what's funny is that the movement's out there, but you're going to see a lot of articles like, where are the conservatives on Planned Parenthood? Where are the raised voices that this is something that they're pro-life? Why aren't they in uproar? I go, they are in an uproar. Search sites that are not mainstream. Rand Paul has been screaming about Planned Parenthood ever since this video has come out. He is hijacking in the Senate any legislation until there is a discussion, a debate on Planned Parenthood. He's done it with the highway bill, and they're like,
good for him.
And Ted Cruz is doing it, and say what you want about Ted Cruz. But Rand Paul has been attacking Planned Parenthood since the moment this video has come out.
Good for him.
And he is, he's the master of the filibuster. I'm going to say that about Senator Paul. And the reason being is because no one wants to have the discussion, because the rhetoric that's being controlled is, well, where are the conservatives on Planned Parenthood? Obviously, they're not pro-life. I go, because you won't allow the voice to get out.
Exactly. They don't want the voice to get out. The media treats this with silence, or they parrot Planned Parenthood's response, which is like, we regret the tone of the video. You don't have any response to the fact that you're selling human body parts.
And you're using federal money.
You're worse than vampires.
Federal tax money that has been extorted from the American citizenry to continue this disgusting murder and mistreatment of a human body.
Lefty sites like Salon, Slate, BuzzFeed, and Gawker followed up late Tuesday and Wednesday to discredit the entire story. It's not what it seemed. No laws were broken, they reported. No, declared Gawker like a stern schoolmarm. Planned Parenthood is not selling aborted fetal body parts. On Wednesday night, Media Matters, which operates like an arm of the Democratic Party, had a cluster of stories on its homepage, all debunking the video. Salon rolled out their anti-choice piece on Wednesday at lunchtime. Politico left out all opinion and played it straight. The story had a pure news hook. Republican lawmakers call for investigations into Planned Parenthood. The Hill wrote a headline that drew the ire of conservative media, C's being the key word that made them bristle. The Washington Post watered down its original headline, which reflects Planned Parenthood's defense. As you can see, one headline is damaging, the other is mildly interesting, bordering on a nothing burger. So, yeah, they're trying to whitewash this. They're trying to kind of sweep it under the rug, so to speak. And it's just disgusting. It's disgusting.
I mean, it's hard to speak more on it because my opinion is so firm about it, and coming from, like I said, where I woke up and my political identity was finally able to release behind this BS of liberalism that I had and progressive thought that I had. That's what makes it even more sick, because I used to support everything that Planned Parenthood did. I used to. Because that was the belief I had. And I remember, my parents like, wow, Jason, you've got to wake up from this. He's like, where's this Democrat side of you coming from? And I think a lot of it was just me being rebellious.
Sure.
And they're like, I'm not going to be like you guys. And then finally, when it was time to be like, oh my gosh, they were right all along. It's like, and like, I'm going to continue to say, this is disgusting, and anyone who supports this, and I've talked with other liberals here in the area, and even they are thrown back by it.
Yeah.
Even they are thrown back by it. There's several of them called it evil, and I said, you know what? Then and a number of them have spoken that they said, I have no restrictions on abortion. And then this story comes out. He's like, that's too far. I go, then you have restrictions on abortion. So you have a moral code.
Have a situation where women are just getting pregnant so they can sell the baby's body parts for hundreds of thousands of dollars a pop. So we're coming up on our final break here. So, we'll be taking a break. Stay tuned. You're watching Frankly Speaking live here on webcast1live.com. We'll be back in a couple minutes with the lightning round. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray, we're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
All right, thanks for joining us. You're watching Frankly Speaking live here on webcast1live.com. I'm Dave Kanyuk, joined by Jason Rainwater. Every week I print out article after article after article. I feel like I hardly hit on them in an hour here. So
I always think that you're like the hoarder that has all the newspapers stacked up.
I am. I keep them
like,
all in a box, actually, in my office.
Like I think it's like you're like the Manchurian candidate in a way, where like you walk into the apartment, it's just stacked with this conspiracy, you know. And
so basically, Jason, you're saying you've been to my house many times.
I've been many times, very many times. Actually, no, stop that. You keep a very clean house. I don't want to hear anything about you having newspapers stacked up in any way.
Yeah, for a 35-year-old unmarried guy, my house is pretty immaculate.
It's pretty pristine.
So I don't know what that says.
You're going to survive.
Yes. It says, I am a catch.
Yeah. I say this, you are a catch. Before we move on to the deal, I just like, because I love that you have enough food saved up for at least 3 months of survival. You're a true Mormon at the core. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was like, you would make my church proud.
Well, Lauren's a lucky lady. That's all
I'm saying.
All right. Anyway, let's go on. I want to hit a bunch of stories here.
Fire away.
All right. 238,000 U.S. veterans died waiting for health care. A leaked document says. A leaked document shows nearly one-third of the 847,000 veterans in the Department of Veterans Affairs backlog died while waiting for treatment, amounting to more than 238,000 patients, according to documents obtained by the Huffington Post. The VA maintains that the number is so large because it has no mechanism to purge the list of dead applicants and that some of the veterans may have died years ago. VA spokeswoman LaWinda West told the Huffington Post that some people on the list may never have completed an application or could be using other insurance. The bottom line here, folks, is that it's the policy now of the VA to deny treatment.
Yes.
They want these people eliminated.
Exactly. And what's funny is that people are like, well, VA, veterans, they have the right to health care. I go, nope. Government doesn't give us a right to health care. You give us the right to health insurance, and then you give the right to screw us over. Because it's basically what's happening. I go, as far as being a veteran myself, I refuse to go to a veteran hospital.
Right.
I absolutely refuse. I will not receive the care that I want. It is government mandated. It does not work. It is horrible. I will go to a hospital that is local or a community and pay whatever bill that I need to.
It should tell you everything that you need to know in all the training materials, all the documents that are released, that the number one threat is not Islamic terrorism. Not Islamic terrorism. The government views the number one threat as returning military, police officers, and Christians, Ron Paul supporters, libertarians, people like that. That's what the government views as the number one threat. So if you've got people who are returning and need health care, why not deny them coverage? Exactly. And as I said back when this scandal broke months and months ago, what I said was that this was the kind of the model of how Obamacare works. So if you have any political opposition whatsoever to the regime in power, they're going to deny you health care because they have control over your body and your health right now.
Right. But it's not even health care. I don't want to call it health care because it's not. You have the right to health insurance. So I have the right to be I have the right to be demanded and made mandatory that I have health insurance.
Well, let's segue into another story here. Democrat judge orders psych counseling for filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza. This should be on front page headlines everywhere.
It absolutely should.
But instead we're talking about the Confederate flag. D'Souza's defense counsel, Benjamin Brafman, provided evidence to the... let me back up here. At a hearing Monday in Manhattan in which he ruled filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza must continue community service for 4 more years, U.S. District Judge Richard M. Berman said he considers D'Souza's violation of federal campaign finance laws to be evidence of a psychological problem and ordered further counseling. D'Souza's defense counsel, Benjamin Brafman, provided evidence to the court that the psychiatrist D'Souza was ordered to see found no indication of depression or reason for medication. In addition, the psychologist D'Souza subsequently consulted provided a written statement concluding that there was no need to continue the consultation because D'Souza was psychologically normal and well-adjusted. But Judge Berman, who was appointed by Bill Clinton, disagreed, effectively overruling the judgment of the 2 licensed psychological counselors the U.S. Probation Department had approved as part of D'Souza's criminal sentence. I only insisted on psychological counseling as part of Mr. D'Souza's sentence because I wanted to be helpful, the judge explained. I'm requiring Mr. D'Souza to see a psychological counselor and to continue the weekly psychological consultation, not as part of his punishment or or as part of retribution. Bull Rourke. This is political. His whole sentence was political.
Yes. The judge continues on to say that the reason that he is demanding 4 more years of psychological
of which
counseling
D'Souza's going to have to pay for
that
himself.
he will have to pay for himself is because Mr. D'Souza has a high level of arrogance and a high opinion of himself. I'm sorry, I guess ego is now a reason to go see a therapist, to mandate someone to see a therapist.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something that what this judge doing. This is nothing short of re-engineering. He wants this person to go through 4 years of this counseling to be re-engineered.
Exactly.
You
It's
know,
brainwashing.
exactly. And I was saying this to a friend of mine, my dear friend Royce Dunbar, who was the one who led me down the path of freedom. I told him, I said, this is nothing short of social re-engineering of this gentleman. I said, it's like alcoholism. You know, I'm paraphrasing my words here. I said, right now, liberals and the far left have no pity for conservatives. Conservatism is something to be punished, much as the alcoholics need pity. But instead, is that the far left appreciates the alcoholic and hates the conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So this is nothing short of re-engineering Mr. D'Souza to be like, oh, God, they're making me go through 4 years, you know, and he's going to be defiant. And what the judge really wants is that he's defiant for that first year, and then the next 3 years he just becomes this
Right.
very...
So what happens after the 4th year?
Right.
And D'Souza sticks with his principles. Does he
order more?
Psychologically counseled for life? I mean, this is what they did in the Soviet Union.
Exactly.
They declared any opposition to the Soviet regime as being mental illness. This is exactly what's going to happen. What's happening here? This one broke today. Facebook censors posts revealing secret bill to ban GMO labeling. Facebook is actively censoring shares of an article regarding a federal bill aiming to ban GMO food labeling. Multiple users of the social media platform are finding themselves unable to share an article entitled "This Bill Could Ban GMO Labeling for Good," which discusses H.R. 1599, a bill known as the Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act of 2015. So another example of how they're doing everything to control the narrative, to control the flow of information, and why they're going to do everything that they can eventually to shut down the internet.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they took over the FCC. They're going to shut down the internet as they know it, bring us into Internet 2.0, so to speak, and have these IDs that are going to be required. So you have to put in your actual information to sign into the internet. So internet is going to be like Facebook. When you sign into it, you're going to have your own login page and everything like that. And if you make anything that is politically dangerous that they consider, they're going to ban you from the internet. And then you're going to have the cashless society when the markets crash finally. You're going to have this cashless society and everybody's going to be tied in. So if you can't sign in to the internet, you're not going to be able to do any type of banking whatsoever. Cash is going to be outlawed, as they've already been laying down the trial balloons for that, Citibank managers, etc.
And guess which many positions in this country as far as jobs require internet access?
What's that?
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. All of them do.
So you can't keep a job if you're denied access from the internet from one post saying I support Reagan, or and they don't like that. I throw that out as an example. I'm not trying to support Reagan in any way. But if you did that and they said, "Oh, God, ban him for 30 days, 1 year, all lifetime."
California now wants to be the first state to mandate adult vaccines. Criminal penalties for those who refuse. In a brazen act of medical tyranny, California recently became the first state in the U.S. where lawmakers removed religious exemptions to those opposing vaccines for their children. The bill now signed into law, SB 277, requires legal hurdles in court next. Now, legislators in California want to pass the first U.S. adult vaccine mandate with no personal exemptions and criminal penalties for failure to comply. SB 792 would eliminate an adult's rights to exempt themselves from one, some, or all vaccines, a risk-laden medical procedure. And what this is all about, this is laying the groundwork for forcing you to take whatever the mark of the beast will be. And I know it sounds far-fetched, it sounds way out there, but that's what it is doing.
Here's your mandatory health care coming into play.
Exactly. All these women who claim that, I have the right to choose, you don't have the right to make decisions for my body, yet they support the state stepping in and making decisions for your body. So how can it be one way and the other at the same time?
Oh, it's hypocritical.
It is.
It's massively hypocritical, and people are really, how can you have such a black and white stance on it? Because I'm not a hypocrite. I made my opinion clear to you. You're a hypocrite because you change your mind on a frequent basis.
All right, and then one story I wanted to hit before we go. Pro-gay activists react to gay marriage resistance. Too many Christians, not enough lions. Folks, that's what it's really all about. That's what it's coming to. The absolute elimination of everything that we've built up, the absolute elimination of free speech, free thought, and free worship of religion. That's what they're working towards, and you gotta guard against it. That's it for this week's Frankly Speaking. We didn't hit everything that I wanted to hit, but that's all right. Join us next week. We'll be right back here, 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, webcast1live.com. I'm Dave Kanyuk. That's been Jason Rainwater. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.